So there's this difference between getting truth and getting knowledge. You can get truths in all sorts of ways. I mean, to put it kind of an exaggerated way, truth is cheap, very cheap. Truth is cheap, easy to get. The hard thing is to know when you've got it. And it's that right there that we tend to confuse. That we think somehow truth isn't there unless we know it. But no, you can get truth by guessing, by playing a hunch, through bias, through bad reasoning. So suppose my best friend is charged with murder. There is tons of evidence to indicate he didn't do it, but I believe he's innocent simply because he's my best friend. Does that change whether he's innocent or not? It has nothing to do with that. Knowledge is a respecter of persons. Knowledge cares about you. Truth doesn't. Knowledge is when you enter the picture. Because knowledge is not only being right, but being right in a certain way. To have knowledge is not just to have truth, but to get it in a certain way. Truth is easy. Getting it in the right way is the hard part. Like I said, you could get lots of true beliefs just by believing everything. But that wouldn't amount to knowledge. So what is it then? If you can guess and be right, if you can have a hunch and be right for it to be true, what does knowledge add? What does knowledge put into the picture that changes it from a guess or a hunch to, and I know that I'm right? You get at the truth in a way that makes it likely that you would have gotten the truth. We reason because we want some reliable way of getting at the truth. You can get at the truth any old way. It's hard to get at it reliably. So, any belief could be true. A belief is true when it corresponds to some state of affairs or fact, whatever, right? When it accurately depicts the way things are. A belief gets to knowledge when it's not only true, but it tracks the truth. It is what we call rational. So you could be the most irrational person in the world and have lots of true beliefs. You're forming beliefs in a way that doesn't make it likely that you're going to arrive at the truth, but you happen to be arriving at the truth. Easy to get truth, hard to get knowledge. Knowledge cares about you. It cares about how you're forming your beliefs. So if I believe that my friend is innocent simply because he's my best friend, it's not knowledge. I'm right, but it's not knowledge. If I believe my friend is innocent because I'm aware of the evidence, and the evidence clearly shows that he's innocent, then not only am I right, I know that I am right. So there's true belief. A belief is true when it corresponds to some state of affairs, the way the world is. There's getting more than true belief. There's getting knowledge, which is true belief plus being rational. So if that's the case, what should we say opinion is? Opinion is a slippery word. People throw it around a lot. Yeah, I mean, people probably mean quite a few different things when they throw around the term opinion. My guess really is that most often what they mean is you don't know that you're right. You may be right, but you don't know it. In other words, opinion is maybe a true belief, but it's lucky. Or are they saying, if that's just your opinion, you can't be right? Would that make sense? So my opinion is that there are an even number of trees within Phoenix city limits right now. That is my opinion. Because it's my opinion, must it be false? It's true as long as there are an even number of trees within Phoenix city limits, right? Opinion really doesn't do anything to truth, but we think it does. Opinions are going to be either true or false because you're representing something as being a certain way. And once you do that, there's the possibility of you getting it right. there's the possibility of you getting it wrong. So what does that mean for us? Something can be true even though you don't know it's true, but you can't know something to be true without it being true. In other words, whenever you have knowledge, you've got truth. But whenever you have truth, you don't necessarily have knowledge. And why am I pointing this out? Because one of the biggest confusions that make it very difficult for us to think rationally about moral issues, one of the biggest problems is that we confuse knowledge with truth. So this is what people will say. Who's to say who's right about the abortion issue? Therefore, everyone is right. They're saying, we don't know who's right. Therefore, everyone has got the truth. How did they get from that? We don't know who's right, to we must all be right. When people are informed that there are lots of different religions, they say to Christians like myself, I'm an exclusivist. I believe there's one true religion. They say, how in the world can you think you're right? You're so arrogant and narrow-minded. But it wouldn't be a good argument to say, therefore, you're not right. Just because there are different religions doesn't mean truth somehow becomes relative. The true religion is the one that corresponds to reality. Quick test. Can God both exist and not exist at the same time? No. Thus, does it make sense to say God exists for you, but not for me? Or that it's true for you that God exists, but not true for me? Because if it's true for you that God exists, then you've got to believe God exists. And what would make that belief true? God exists. If you've got someone else who says God does not exist, what would make their belief true? God does not exist. But God does not both exist and not exist at the same time. Therefore, one of you has got to be right. Just as a matter of logic, one of you's got to be right. You've got a 50-50 chance when it comes to God. Either he exists or he doesn't. And whether we know it has nothing to do with whether there's a fact of the matter and whether what we believe is true. So what would make my belief true? That God exists? God would have to exist. Does that truth change the way my reasons for believing in God, can that change the truth in any way? What would have to make it the case? What would have to happen for my belief that God exists to become false? Yeah, God would need to pass out or die. God would need to cease to exist, right? So if I believe that God exists and I've got the craziest reasons for believing it, I'm right still. If I believe that God exists and I've got the best reasons for believing it, I'm still right. The difference is whether I know if I'm right or not. But it doesn't affect the truth.